Wait, where are we at? Part 1, Susannah is dead and everything is bad. I don't need this anymore. You watched the show, right? Because I am going to spoil, like, all of it. In August of this year, I went to the doctors, got some news about my health that required a new and manageable level of attention on my part, got sick with the flu, and watched the hit Amazon TV series, This Summer I Turned Pretty, a show about a girl who sleeps with two brothers after their mother dies.
Gigi.
As I was watching the show, the most interesting aspect from my perspective was how the showrunner and author of the novel the show is based on, Jenny Han, haunts these characters with the memory of the brother's dead mom. Jeremiah is the bad one who is looking towards the future. Conrad is the good one who keeps this reverence and consistency and memory for their dead mom.
Death is real.
And Susannah is the dead mom who tells Belly as a child she's gonna end up with one of those two brothers. I did heavily consider writing a strictly Freudian analysis of this show, but as mentioned before, I was not the pinnacle of health in August, and I did just write a weird little thing about psychoanalyzing the concept of nothing that got much of Freud's specter out of my system and spirit. I was nearly Freuded out, but I still thought this haunting aspect of the show was super cool and interesting until the show took the theme out of subtext and just made it text.
How are we supposed to know if we love each other because we want to and not because we were told to?
In this line, I don't only remember Susannah's specter, but all the weird little Freudian bits that bring this narrative together. Belly is depicted as only having two serious relationships, one with each brother. She grows up with these brothers in an environment that, when I described it to a coworker who has no reference to the show, described as a sort of cousins relationship. The majority of the show takes place in a town called Cousins, and Belly, alongside Conrad and Jeremiah, are treated as family in pretty seamless ways by their mothers. Belly is the daughter Susannah never had. Laurel becomes the brother's mother when they no longer have one. But look, if most of this stuff happened in real life, childhood best friends from super close families falling in love, that would just be a lovely, wonderful story. The only issue here is that we're dealing with fiction, which means an author making conscious and unconscious decisions, so people with English degrees who have been watching a woman talk about the Freudian act of choking way too much are going to see patterns.
Because if you think about breathing and if you think about speaking, it's the tongue and it's the teeth and it's the air and it's the nose and it's the throat and it's the larynx and it's the esophagus and it's this vibrating column of air, and as we know from Ben Lerner, it's choking.
This is not the interesting point in the show. The history and haunting laid the groundwork, sure, but the points that bring this narrative together completely, give it life, made me cry, were whenever someone made a decision. Part 2, Conrad needs to love. A sort of theme in the series is predicated on whether it is right to preserve a memory or blissfully move on from it. These decisions usually come from Belly, and they're the most memorable when they come from her because her choices usually center around these two boys and are often bad. These decisions Belly makes are the primary thing giving her character any sort of depth. And we'll get back to this, but it's weird because her character for a lot of it is flat, but I love Belly. Lola Tung does great in the show. Jenny is incredible, and I wouldn't be writing about this show in this focused way unless I really did like it. But the feminist history in me is like, is this not feminist? And I'm like, no, because it's a good story, and it doesn't matter if it's feminist or not because the story is good, the narrative's good, and Belly does grow a bit as a character, and this is good. If it's good, it doesn't matter. If it's good, it's good.
I will explain this.
Anyway, while we are introduced to Belly's ultimate choice in the first season during the summer she first turned pretty, she doesn't really do much herself. Toward the beginning of the series, Susannah asks Belly to do the debutante ball, which Belly agrees to. Susannah suggests dresses, Belly is told how to act, everyone has an opinion. Because of plot, she starts initially dating Conrad, who has been sulking nearly all summer because he found out his mother has terminal cancer after a recovery some time ago. And, you know, what upsets Conrad is Susannah's not seeking treatment. She's also not sharing this information. So Conrad becomes a sort of keeper, both of this secret, but also of his mother's memory, grieving before she's gone, acting out, mirroring Susannah as they both smoke pot to cope. Susannah tries to relish every moment she can. Conrad seeks to protect every memory possible. Susannah doesn't want to do another round of chemo, doesn't want to live a few more months weak and sick and dying, while Conrad can't stand to see his mother essentially give up. Susannah makes a good choice based on the reality she faces. She chooses to push off the sickness as long as she can, even if it means having a shorter life. She doesn't want her children to remember her last months medically dying in a slow process. But Conrad doesn't want his mom to die. Conrad wants his mom to live as long as possible. So Susannah starts treatment again. Susannah dies in the way she didn't want to. This is one of the points I cried. When Susannah puts preservation and love before her desires, when she takes an impossible, useless gamble because her sons asked her to. She accepts the heavy identity of patient and she dies in it. Her absence haunts the rest of the series. Her sons attempt to figure out ways to grieve, move on, and they have varying levels of success. The brothers' strategies are dialectic. Conrad mourns in near silence, but grows to move out west and attend med school at Stanford, likely influenced by his mother's death. Jeremiah stays out east and follows in his father's footsteps to work in business. Conrad acts to love. Jeremiah acts to be loved. In the story, this is symbolized by each character's relationship to the two spaces of water at the beach house. Conrad is safe and knowable and known. He cares about home. He's represented by the pool. Jeremiah is volatile, expansive, and at times a little shallow. He is represented by the beach. Belly, being a very fluid character, inhabits both from time to time. She too must choose between love and being loved. Of course, there is a second aspect to this choice, since Belly is a person with her own wants and needs. Because of her narration in the years that we follow Belly over the course of the story, we also know she is not plainly an object of affection. If she were, Jeremiah would have wedded. Instead, Belly must choose between the active love, which we could also call desire, or the passive being loved, which is paired along with being desired. These two experiences are depicted and compared among the two adult couples in the series, Laurel and John, and Susannah and Adam. Despite their divorce, it's clear that Laurel and John still hold love for each other, even if that love has changed. Adam's love for Susannah only appears absent. He cheats on his wife during treatment, starts a relationship with his affair partner once she is dead, and ends the series single and alone, desperate not to be. Like his son, it is difficult for Adam to not be loved. It eats at him, and he searches for ways to escape it. Adam's love is volatile, only existing in the present, but the love Belly ultimately chooses has no memorable beginning or end.
You'll always be the boy who taught me how to ride a scooter, so.
Oh. Hey, I'll always be the boy who taught you how to ride a bike.
It has changed, yes, but the present is constant. It will be constant. The pool can be known fully, completely. The ocean cannot. Part 3, Jeremiah needs to be cool. Let's be honest. Jeremiah only enters the picture after Conrad and Belly break up. The show makes this clear. Belly always wished for Conrad on her birthday and not Jeremiah. But if she can't know and be known by Conrad, she's excited to explore with Jeremiah. The pool, the ocean. Except Jeremiah is less ocean, more tide, more beach. He is all too often shallow, always volatile, always acting for his father's approval. This is why I initially said beach in the last part. I'm sure he loves Belly, but I also think Jer is intimately attracted to the status Belly brings him. This is the summer I turned pretty, after all. But beyond that, having a hot girlfriend offers him cultural capital, which he continues to chase throughout their relationship. He joins a fraternity, only has sex with hot people, and initiates a wedding that was set to double as a corporate party. Even after they break up, Jeremiah shifts his career from Nepo baby to high-end influencer chef, putting on a tasting menu for those influencers at the end of the series. If Conrad is desperate to love, then Jeremiah is desperate to be loved. I am worried what this means for my girl Denise. So Denise originally shows up in the series as a businesswoman and possible romantic interest for Steven. She's mean and flirty, and then they kiss and decide they should just be friends and business partners. She is also one of my favorite characters in the series and is deeply kind and warm. Denise offers Jeremiah her couch, which Jeremiah uses for months. She offers him the time and space he needs while doing his cooking thing. And even though we know she has a business ventures and like a life and aspirations, what we see in the show after starting a business and losing her job is providing support for Jeremiah's business with brief mentions of her own work, her own life, her own inner person. Denise takes up the role Belly left behind. Both of the men she finds a connection with in the series only express interest in her after their first relationship choice fails. In my opinion, the show does not do enough to prove that Jeremiah has changed in any way, and thus relegates Denise to the same status as the girl in Cabo Jer cheated on Belly with. Getting a little ahead of myself though. So here's the same thing, but in fewer words before I just, I work more to justify my feelings on Jer and Denise further.
I will explain this.
Jeremiah does not know how to be alone or independent. He starts the show needing to be loved and ends it in basically the exact same way. Denise shows desire, Jer shows dependency. He's going from one beach to another. Still pretty volatile, still pretty shallow. I am a Jeremiah hater, and recent events only prove my judgment more valid.
This tan? Genetics.
Back on track. Jeremiah's most memorable and consequential decisions start when he finds out Belly ran into Conrad at Cousins and did nothing with him during Christmas. Like, Jeremiah knows nothing happened, but he holds an anxiety that he is not the only subject of Belly's affection and destroys his life because of it. In response to this, he self-sabotages, starts a fight with Belly, and then the couple go on a break right before Jeremiah goes to Cabo. When he gets there, he gets together with someone who isn't Belly. Twice.
What did you do?
We had sex.
Belly understands this as a form of cheating, as she should, and defines a further separation from Jeremiah, which he cannot stand because he's not in Cabo anymore, and he hasn't grown at all, and he can't be alone. So he proposes to her, still desperate to be loved. Belly understands the proposal to be an act of love. She accepts. Jer plays out his role as fiance, gains more status because of it until he runs away from their wedding after his brother makes the first of two selfish choices he makes in the entire series.
Fuck, I still love you.
Conrad is ostracized by everyone for this choice. The support for Jeremiah comes from a support for Belly's perceived choice. But as Jer comes to realize and solidify this truth that Belly will still always hold a little love for Conrad, he understands he doesn't just want to be loved, but the constant changing thing he asks his brother not to waste. Denise at this point does not offer that constant changing thing. She offers support, sure, direction, a couch, and at the end, desire. But we have not yet seen Jeremiah put in real work for his love or his craft or like anything. He ends the series a little vaster, a little deeper, sure, but he's still at the beach waiting in the tides. I think Denise deserves the ocean. I hope, eventually, Jeremiah delivers. Part 4, Belly... Part 4, Belly needs to doubt. In A Lot of the Summer I Turned Pretty, Belly plays an interchangeable role. The most important quality of her character is her indecision, this relatable coming-of-age process where you sort out and go after your values. For a lot of the show, she doesn't know her values, and so she takes up the classic and vital role of a romance protagonist. Belly is an avatar who very often can just be replaced by YN, which, again, this is good. This use of our protagonist as an avatar is part of what makes the first season of this show so excellent, and what riled up the base in the other seasons as we see Belly make decisions on screen. As the series progresses, at least from my perspective and the older audience I keep community with, Belly shifts from being this sort of avatar self-insert fantasy protagonist character to someone making poor, confused decisions we see and know are bad, but cannot and should not do anything to stop.
Would you?
Yes.
It seems I underestimated the power of desire.
The narrative latches on to that part of you that wants to know more about your personal insurance or retirement plans. A reflection, or at least a specter, of a paternal instinct. I also thought the wedding was a bad idea, that she should have stayed away from Jeremiah, that Belly shouldn't have been so brash during the third season. By the point Belly is allowed to make choices with weight, we know the relationships of the characters intimately enough to wonder what the hell she is doing. The moment Belly escapes the influence and wisdom of her mother, her decisions become more chaotic to us, the audience. The audience's desire haunts Belly's fate. The audience's rationality must be rejected by her. Belly is pulled into different directions as she makes her decisions, but the important, most memorable ones are those I'd argue she makes poorly, which happen to also be the ones that are entirely her own. She chooses to accept Jeremiah's proposal. She chooses to leave for Paris. She chooses to love Conrad. She chooses to figure it out.
How are we supposed to know if we love each other because we want to and not because we were told to?
Belly shifts away from a self-insert, develops into a more complete character the more she doubts. Belly doubts, therefore Belly is. This is part of the reason the last season feels so different and distinct. It is where the majority of the doubting occurs. For the rest of the series, Belly's choices are primarily confirmations. She agrees to the debutante ball. She agrees to dating each of the brothers. She agrees to Jeremiah's proposal. She agrees to the changes that are, placed into her wedding to make it more corporate friendly. And then, after Conrad expresses his consistent, undying love for her in his first selfish choice, Belly says no.
You will never be what Jer is to me. Did you hook up with Lacey Barone during spring break?
She runs off to France after the wedding is called off, stays there despite being unable to attend the program she hoped to. She doesn't come back for the holidays and remains completely removed from cousins, only considering Conrad again when he makes his second selfish decision and reaches out in hopes of reconnecting, rekindling. When he surprises her on her birthday, she has doubts. Sure, she opens back up to him pretty quickly, but Belly is adamant this means nothing. That this thing is not her choice.
I wish that I could be as sure as you, but I can't.
Conrad accepts this decision. Belly immediately changes her mind, and we get an 80s rom-com declaration, and they stay together in Paris. Everything has changed. Their love has changed, but its presence remains consistent. Belly realizes she doesn't need to find the ocean, this sense of newness and exploration and unique experience in a person, because it is out in the world. Once she satisfies this desire to experience, she is happy to keep being known, and Conrad is happy to know and be known in tandem with her. Belly's doubt proves they are perfect for each other. So they remain in love, ever changing. We need nothing more. Part 5, things that concern me about the movie that's coming out in 2027. I feel like Denise ending with Jer was not earned and flattens her character into this desired object role, which, like, it makes me sad. She's my favorite. Also, I'm worried about my other favorite, Agnes. Like, nearly everyone is in the Bay now. They're all moving to the Bay. Are we gonna see her again? Or are we just gonna leave her? Is she gonna like end up with Redbird or someone else that's really hot? Jeremiah needs to start at the bottom of a restaurant of the food industry as a line cook or something. If he's really going to fulfill this ocean metaphor, he needs something to back it up. He's still just Wimmy, and we haven't seen him work on his cooking. He just did 2 meals, 2 group dinners. This is not what a vocation makes. I want to know what Conrad is doing for work now in Paris, and I want to know what Belly is doing to progress her career. I'll be fine if Laurel just says something about this in the movie. I'll eat that up. I'll be so happy. I'm also gonna need a grave scene with a comment from Taylor about the brothers beating each other up during the failed wedding. I wanna. What else do I want to see? I want to see confirmation that Redbird and Jeremiah had sex in Cabo. I think that'd be pretty sick. I want. I want Jeremiah and Denise and Redbird to start a polycule in the Bay Area. I want Conrad to have to meet Belly's extended family and then prove that he's good enough for their wonderful, beautiful granddaughter or niece or whoever. I don't know if Laurel has any siblings. Whoops. I guess that's it. Thanks.